Brian Trippe is here all the way from Birmingham. He's not going to talk about Alabama. We're done with the game references, I hope. We're done, okay? But Brian Trippe is going to tell you guys how you can get out of the bleachers and on the field with some proven methods, proven experience from him. And he might even show you how to do it with a little bit of money or no money at all. So who wants to hear about that? Yeah. I don't know. I didn't hear this corner of the room. Who wants to hear about that? Yeah. All right. So without further ado, I'm going to bring up Brian Trippe from Birmingham, Alabama, and are you out loud? Let's give him a big hand.
We good? Are we good? Yeah. Awesome. This is the 10th month, the 10th meeting that y'all have had, right, since you started? And Andrew finally invited me to come back to South Carolina. I had lived in South Carolina for like 6 years, so I'm really excited to be back. Before we really get going, can we give a huge round of applause to Andrew and Michelle for doing an incredible job? Awesome. I'm fired. Are you guys fired up? Yeah. I get excited. I get a little too passionate, a little too emotional, but I'm really excited to talk to you guys tonight, especially about this particular topic. Before we get going, though, I'm curious. I want to kind of gauge the room a little bit. I want to know where my investors are. Who's currently investing? Raise your hand up really high. Really high. Leave it there. Who's currently doing something? Okay, put it down. So that means about half the room, a little over half the room, has never done a deal. Is that right? Never done a deal. I'm curious to know from the folks that did not raise their hand, why have you not done a deal yet? I'm just curious. Who's going to be bold and raise their hand and tell me why you haven't done a deal yet? Yes, sir.
Our marketing sucks.
Your marketing sucks.
Yeah, I can go with that.
What else? Yes, ma'am.
I'm nervous.
You're nervous. What are you nervous about?
I don't know,
Approaching
approaching the owners and saying the right stuff.
the owners, you're scared that you might say the wrong thing?
Yeah.
I'll give you a quick little tip. This is not what I'm here to talk about, but a lot of times they don't even know as much as you know. So just keep that in the back of your mind. Why else? Why have you not done a deal yet? Come on, who's going to be bold? Yes, sir. You don't have the knowledge. So what's stopping you from getting the knowledge? This is day one for you. This is your first day that you've tried to do anything with real estate. We're so excited that you're here. Great first step, for sure. What else? Is that it? Financing. Who thinks it takes a lot of money to make money? Raise your hand if you think it takes money to make money. Andrew, does it take money to make money in real estate?
Not really.
Not necessarily. So maybe you need the right strategy. Maybe you need the right strategy. What else? Anybody else? Anything else? We're going to talk a little bit about marketing. Okay, awesome. Hey, who just raised their hand and gave me an answer? I forgot to do this. I'm going to give you guys a book. Can I give you a book? Come up here. Who raised their hand and gave me an answer? I forgot I got these books. You got to remind me because I got like a few more too. I appreciate y'all.
I'll take one, but I didn't.
Oh, you can't lie. You can't lie. So listen, here's what I'm here to talk to you. First, I want to tell you my story. Can I take 2 or 3 minutes just to tell you my quick story? I got my start in real estate in 2012. So I've not been doing this for a super long time. I immediately started wholesaling. In the first 45 days after I learned what wholesaling was, I did my first deal and made $10,000. Would $10,000 change anyone's circumstance today? Raise your hand if it would. For me, at that point in my life, I'd never made that much money before at one time, ever. And it was a complete mindset shift for me. I never thought I could be rich, never thought I wanted to be rich. I resented rich people. I'm like, I don't want that. Who's ever thought, I don't want to be rich, I just need enough. I just want enough to pay my bills. Who's ever thought that? Raise your hand. I just want enough. I used to think that way, and I'm going to tell you guys that raise your hand, and even for the few that didn't raise their hand and it was still true for, it's a terrible way to think. It's a terrible way to think because you're setting limitations on yourself. And that's what I did my entire life. I set limitations on myself. Came from a very tough upbringing. My dad used to tell me I would never amount to anything. On the day I graduated from high school, we were gathered around a lot of people, and someone asked me, what am I going to do next? And I said, well, I'm probably going to go to college. And my dad, in front of all my friends and family, said, why? Why are you going to go to college? You're just going to flunk out. You barely graduated high school. That's the kind of influence I had in my life when I was growing up. And I don't know if that little story resonates with some of you in here, but I'm here to tell you that it's all, like, to get to where you want to be, it's all this. It's 100% mental. And a lot of you in this room, especially the ones that haven't done a deal yet, except my man who's it's his first day even trying, a lot of you, it's right here, is how can you switch your thinking? How can you switch this little piece to believe that you can do this, to believe that you can make money in real estate? Everybody say, I can.
I can.
You can make money in real estate. And I know Andrew does an incredible job with some training that he does. A lot of the stuff that he was talking about earlier, getting in the game, is vital. And some of you are just too scared to even get in the game. You know, I'm not trying to pick on you, ma'am, but just getting in the game, just talk. You know, the first time I talked to a seller, you want to know how nervous I was? I didn't know anything about real estate. Maybe I watched a few YouTube videos, came to a few meetings. I didn't know anything about real estate. And I was so scared they're going to know way more than me. They're going to call me out on this or call me out on that. I didn't know what I was doing, but I did it. And the only way to get better is to do it and to keep messing up and keep messing up and keep failing your way forward. And there's really no other secret to it. If mindset is the most important thing in real estate, the second most important thing is what I'm going to be talking to you about tonight, which is people and relationships and networking.
Oh, there's that word again.
Oh, I thought I was going to get some like people like nodding off like right away, like, oh, Brian, networking, really? What are you talking about? We just got all up and we were talking really loud for about 10 minutes there. That's got to be some great networking right there, right? I'm going to show you some very specific secrets, very specific strategies that you can use to influence people to get them to do what you want them to do. This is going to be very valuable information for those who are going on seller appointments, talking to sellers. Who's talking to sellers right now trying to find deals? Raise your hand up high if you're talking to them right now. It's going to be very valuable information for that. It's going to be very valuable information for just a networking scenario, how you can get other people to bring you their deals and you sell their deals. What does that equal? 0 marketing costs? We're going to go over a lot of that today. And actually, do we have any OCD people in here? There's like really kind of obsessive compulsive, like I am. Control freaks. Any control freaks in the room? Raise them up. Raise them up. Okay. This is for the control freaks in the room. This is our agenda for the evening. We'll be talking about chickens and bellies and, hustlers and Morgan Freeman and Shaquille O'Neal and Kevin Bacon and rhinoceroses. Is that cool? You guys want to take a picture of this so you understand what our objectives are for the evening? This is what we're going to be talking about today. But the first thing on that list is purpose. Why are you doing what you are doing? This is me and my family. About a couple of months ago, we went on a little canoe trip with a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. Well, now a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old. Who has little kids? Who thinks it's really hard and difficult to go on a canoe trip with a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old? It is. Is it terrible? Someone says it's a terrible idea. But it was awesome. It was terrible. Everything about it was terrible. But it was so much fun, and it's a memory that we'll never get back, or that we're going to have with us for the rest of our lives, right? And the cool thing about this trip is this trip took place on a Monday and a Tuesday. How many of you right now, you don't have to raise your hands, just kind of rhetorically, how many of you could just get up and leave on a Monday and a Tuesday and just go wherever you want to go and do whatever you want to do? We literally plan this like 3 days in advance. Hey, you want to go canoeing? My aunt lives up there in Tennessee. We can just canoe down the river. We can spend a couple days with them. How many of you could do that? How many of you, raise your hand, how many of you would you want to just get away and do anything you want to do at any time? For whatever reason, even if you have small children. For me, I love this picture for a lot of reasons, but for me, this picture represents freedom. The reason I got into real estate in the very beginning is because I wanted freedom. Who can relate to that? I want freedom. But freedom doesn't necessarily just mean money. What else does it mean? Time. I want to be free to do whatever I want, whenever I want, with whomever I want, with no financial consequences. Anybody relate to that? Who can relate to that? I want that so bad, but here's the problem. Most people who get into real estate, they don't get freedom. Even the super successful people that you see that are doing millions and millions of dollars in volume, they're not free. They're slaves of their business. And that was me. I was a slave to my business. That's all I wanted to do is do the next deal, make the next $10,000, make the next $20,000, get the next rental property. And my number one goal when I got into real estate, my wife, who was a pharmacist at the time, making really good money, she called me up and said, I hate my job, I want to quit my job. I'm like, you're kind of supporting us right now. You can't really do that. So I made it my goal. She called me in tears. She didn't want to do it anymore. I made it my goal from that point forward I wanted her to quit her job. And it took me about 3 years after that point. It took me 3 years. It took me 3 years to replace a pharmacist's income with our rental income. So now she's staying home. She's staying home with our kids. We have 2 kids. Everything she ever wanted, right? Everything she asked for, I delivered it. And then she came to me about a year and a half ago and looked at me and said, Brian, I don't like being married to you. I don't like being married to you anymore. And that was one of the biggest, I couldn't even, what are you even talking about? I've given you everything you've ever asked for. We have plenty of money. We have the car that you want. We have everything that you want. We go wherever you want, whenever you want. You have everything that you want. What's the problem? I don't see you. We never see you. You've given us all this, but we don't see you. What good is everything if we don't see you? Guys, I was working 80, 90, and no lie, I was working 100 hours a week some weeks. And I wore it as a badge of honor too. I'm the hustler. I'm the one putting in the work. We have all this, but we have all this because I'm putting in the work. That funny thing that happened right then in that moment where she said she didn't like being married to me, it kind of blew up everything I believed in. Because they tell you, you sit in a room like this and they tell you, look, they show you the flashy cars, the money, they show you the houses, they show you all this stuff. But what they don't show you is that the people that have all that, most of them that I know, they don't have a life. They're slaves to their businesses. And I don't want it. I didn't want it anymore. So from that day forward, I tried to put systems in place to where these businesses I have can run mostly without me. Right now, I'm proud to say that I work right around 20 hours a week. And I go on trips a lot. I was in Seattle last weekend. I was in San Diego for 20 hours just to go to I'm a big Cubs fan, just to go to a Cubs-Padres game with my 5-year-old daughter. Next week, I don't know what the Cubs are doing right now. They're playing the Cardinals. It's a really big series. But next week, the Cubs play the Pirates in Pittsburgh. Me and my 5-year-old daughter are going. And then we're flying from there to St. Louis. On Friday, we're going to go see the Cubs and Cardinals play the last weekend of the year. I'm a big baseball fan. I'm doing all these things because today I'm living my life intentionally and deliberately. So I want to ask you guys, are you living your life intentionally? Are you living your lives deliberately, on purpose, not letting life happen to you? Because it was a big wake-up call for me. And here's the thing. When you get into real estate, some of you who are trying to get into it, it's very easy to fall into the trap of hustle, 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 work, 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 just to try to get that check. It's a never-ending cycle. And they say entrepreneurs are the ones that are crazy enough to quit a 40-hour-a-week job to work 80 hours a week just to work for themselves. Right? That's the definition of somebody's definition of an entrepreneur. That was me. Don't let it happen to you. Put systems, put processes in place to where it doesn't happen. And I'm going to tell you the number one thing I did to switch this whole thing around is I started relying on and building relationships with the right people. And I'm going to show you exactly what I did. Would anybody be interested in seeing exactly what I did to put all this in place? Only 3 of you?
Yeah.
Only 5 of you?
Yep.
Okay, here we go. So I believe that real estate is 2 things. Real estate's local, and real estate is live. So for just 1 second, I want to talk about the local aspect of real estate, but I'm going to spend the majority of the rest of the time I have talking about how real estate is live. We are presumably in Columbia, South Carolina, right? This is where we are. This is where most of you invest. I know some of you are from, maybe from a little bit further away, but most of you invest right here in Columbia, or trying to. And I'm going to tell you something about Columbia. Columbia is just the right type of market for a lot, and most of you guys, a lot of you guys know this. It's just the right kind of market for a lot of investors who are out of state to come in here and buy up a lot of property. Why do you think they're doing that? Why do you think out-of-state investors are coming to Columbia to buy up a lot of property?
Price.
Because it's cheaper, but not just because it's cheaper, but what else? What's in concert with that? It's cheaper and
Retirement, Navy,
it's profitable. How is it profitable?
They make more money on it.
What makes it get more money? There's cheap real estate, and the rents are high compared to what you can buy the house for. There are not a lot of markets in America where you can come into this market and buy a piece of real estate and get a rate of return of 12%, and that's not even that good for Columbia. 15%? Who's making 15% or more right now on investment property in Columbia? Raise your hand up high. Raise your hand up high. Because I'm making 33% in Birmingham. So I know what's going on here in Columbia, because Columbia is just now getting to the point to where the national guys are finding out what's going on here. And that's how Birmingham was about 3 years ago, where I'm from, where I live. So this is the point I'm trying to make. The cool thing about Columbia is this is a cash flowing market. People buy property here so they can cash flow it, get a great rate of return. They don't buy property in Columbia to sit on it and wait for it to appreciate. I'm not saying that some of it won't appreciate, but that's not the reason why out-of-state buyers come here. Just like in Birmingham, it's a cash-flowing market. Do you think what goes on right here in Columbia has anything to do with what's going on in San Diego, New York, Phoenix? It's a completely different market. It's a completely different type of market. Real estate is local. When you hear the big pundits out there, the big prognosticators out there saying that, real estate, it's on the decline or it's at the top of the market. By the way, who thinks we're at the top of the market? Raise your hand really high if you think we're at the top of the market. Nobody. Who thinks we're still climbing? Raise your hand if you think we're still climbing. Who thinks we're on our way down? Raise your hand if you think we're on our way down. So no one in here thinks we're at the top of the market or that we're declining.
At the top.
You think we're at the top. One person. That's fascinating. Because when I spoke in Phoenix about 3 months ago, most of the room said we're on our way down. Why would they say that? And why would you have a completely opposite reaction 3 months later? It's a different market. It's a totally different type of market. You can't look at Phoenix and judge what's going to go on here in Columbia. People are always going to be buying property for cash flow. Always. In a bad market or in a good market, in a flat market. They always will be. If you look at Columbia's chart, you look at their graph from 2008, 2009, 2010, it took a dip. But you look at San Diego, Phoenix, some of these places, it's volatile. It's going crazy. That's why real estate is extremely local. Anytime someone asks you about the real estate market, your question back to them should be, which market? There is not one real estate market. It's localized. Your market. And I'm going to take it a step further. It's not just Columbia. Let's get street by street. Let's get town by town, area by area. It's different. You got to get in it and be in it. There's different parts of town. We just did a study in Birmingham, me and our analytics team, that we do this every month. We found that properties at $80,000, and our price point is very similar to yours. Properties at $80,000 to $100,000 and below have appreciated about 15 to 17% over the course of the last 3 years. But properties over 150,000, where you think that that's the appreciating houses, only appreciate about 3 to 4%. And I'm not saying that that's going on here in Columbia, but I kind of am. Because I kind of understand the trends of cash flowing markets. Cash flowing property is so valuable right now, especially to a lot of these funds that are out there that are coming if they're not already here, and a lot of these international type of buyers. Who is wholesaling properties right now? Raise your hand. Who's wholesaling specifically to funds and out of state and out of the country buyers? The smart ones. Because they're paying the most amount of money. Does that make sense, guys? You follow me? Real estate is local. It's hyper localized. And I won't go over that. I'll skip that. Real estate is, number 2, real estate is live. Can I get a water? Can you give me like a little cup of water? You can't unsee that? Real estate is live. What do you think I mean by that when I say real estate's live? It's going on right now. It's going on all around you, right? What's that?
Constantly changing.
Constantly changing. Okay, thank you so much. What else? It never stops. All those are great answers, but that's not what I mean when I think it's live. I think that real estate is live because I think you have to do it in person. Are there people that do real estate virtually and wholesale virtually and buy properties virtually, like online auctions? 100%, of course. But to really get down and dirty and to really do real estate, when you're sitting here talking to a seller, the best way to negotiate, the best way to talk to a seller, the best way to network is belly to belly. That's why I got a big belly there. It's belly to belly. It's face to face. You are here. I'm curious to know, why are you here tonight? I'm curious to know. Raise your hand. Why are you here tonight? Yes, sir.
Learning. That's a learning experience.
To learn?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Network.
To network? What does networking mean to you, sir?
Right now, I'm trying to wholesale, so trying to meet buyers.
Trying to meet buyers? Okay, great.
That's deals.
To pass out deals? Okay, you came with an intentionality. You came with a specific purpose. Could you do that online? Probably not as effectively. You wouldn't be able to meet all these people, right? Could you learn online?
Yeah, I'm doing that.
Of course.
Different
Yeah.
experience over here.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Get out of my shell, get out of my introvert status, so I can actually shake hands and meet people.
Okay.
Get used to going to their houses.
Well, and as an introvert, I appreciate you answering the question. I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit more, though. Why do you feel it's necessary to be here to do that and not Bigger Pockets or online and the Facebook group, things like that?
Because I understand if I don't meet face to face, when I have to go talk to somebody, I won't be able to relate because I haven't got out of my shell, like literally live. I haven't went touch people, shake hands, look you in the eye.
100%. No, I love it. No, being able to actually look somebody in the eye, because guys, listen, people, who can finish this phrase? People do business with people they like, people they know, and people they trust. And it's hard to really get to know someone and like them and trust them in a Facebook group, right? Or just in a comment section. That's why real estate is extremely live. Who else is an introvert, by the way? Raise your hand if you're an introvert. You guys want me to give you some tips on just like for being an introvert, some tips on how to get all the deals you could ever want or need? I'm going to do that a little bit later. I love that. So I had a coaching student who came up to me it's been a couple of years ago now, maybe a year and a half ago, and she asked me, I was telling her all the same things that everybody always says, you need to network, you need to get out of your shell, you need to get out there and meet people, all these things. And you know what she said to me? She said something so fascinating to me that it's actually the reason she said that is why I'm talking to you about this today, like a year and a half ago. She said, Brian, I hate networking. And I was like, why do you hate to network? She said, I hate networking because I hate asking people for things. Who feels that way? I'm just curious. Raise your hand if you feel it. Raise it up really high. Who feels that way? That's so fascinating to me because that's not what networking is. If you think networking is about asking things from someone else, then I would suggest that I think you've got it backwards. You've actually got it backwards. Someone said, I'm here to meet buyers, and I'm here to, I came with my agenda. You know what I do when I come to a meeting like this? I come to serve. I come to lead with value. I want to get to know people and understand what their challenges are, what their struggles are, and I want to serve them. Does that make sense? I want to try to connect them with people that they might need to be connected with. Networking and relationship building is kind of like a rental property. And this is how I want you to kind of take this analogy with you, because I think this is going to help a lot of you here. What happens when you go to buy a rental property? What's the first thing you do? Go look at it, maybe get a price. So you're gonna the opportunity is gonna present itself to you, and you're gonna check it out. Check the neighborhood. You're gonna do your due diligence. Okay, make sure it's something that I would even want to buy. You know, is the price right? How much work does it need? You're just gonna check it out. And then what do? Yeah, that's part of your due diligence, right? You want to see what the rent comps are. You want to see what the comps are. I'm going to do all my due diligence, okay? Then what do? Maybe make an offer, and then once you make an offer, you put a contract on it, right? And then maybe you go to a closing table. And this is assuming you're going to buy it. When you buy the property, a lot of times, unless you're doing something super creative, you got to put up what? An investment, right? You got to put up some money. And then what do you got to do? Okay, maybe before you find a tenant, you might have to do what? You might have to fix it, right? You might have to fix it up. Does that cost money? Or you can do that for free? Costs money. It's another investment. And then what do? Maybe you look for a tenant. Maybe you find a property manager who's going to find a tenant for you. Does that take work? Does that take time? Okay. And then what? Then what's next?
Look for the next property.
Well, I'm talking about with that property. Maybe you found a tenant. Then what? Then maybe, right? You collect the rent 100% of the time for 100% of your tenants? Then maybe after all that work, guys, after locating a property, locating a deal, doing your due diligence, putting it under contract, going to closing, putting up money to buy it, putting up money to rehab it, finding a contractor, finding a crew, finding a great property manager, locating hopefully a good tenant, and then maybe, if you've done all that work correctly, maybe you'll get to see a return on your investment, right? It's the same thing with networking. You have to put forth your effort first. You have to lead with value. You have to put yourself out there first. What are your challenges? What can I do to help you? And when you do that, a crazy law of the universe works. Does anyone know what this law is? Law of what? Traction. Attraction? Okay. We're going to actually get to that. What happens when you give and give and give?
You receive in return.
You say what now?
You get in return.
Reciprocating, maybe, but yeah, you're on the right track. Yeah. So maybe they're going to start to, you've been doing all this for them, maybe they're going to start to what? Start to do something for you, right? It's almost as if, and we're in the South, right? When you go into, and this happens like all the time. Tell me if this is just me or if it happens to you guys. When you go and you're going to a restaurant, and there's like those two doors, right? There's the first set of doors and there's a second set of doors. Follow me? And someone opens that door for you. What do you do next? You open it for them. Why do you do that? That's how you were raised, right? Why do you do that? It's a courtesy, but they just open it for you. You're going to open it right back for them. You know why we do that? Because A, we feel guilty. We feel a little bit guilty. But number two, and this is very interesting and it's powerful. We as a society, as a people, don't want to owe people anything. I'm serious. Like if you've done something for me, I want to come back and make it right. I want to make it even, right? I don't want to feel like I owe you anything. Just because you did a few favors. Brian, you gave me a few books. I don't feel like I owe you anything, right? But that's what happens with this rental property philosophy, with this networking philosophy. You give and you start to give enough, guess what happens? It comes back to you. And it comes back to you in droves. Dr. Robert Cialdini in the book Influence. Has anyone ever read that? Influence? It's one of the most, guys, if you write down anything, just forget everything else I said tonight. And just write down influence. It's one of the most important. Who's out there talking to sellers? Who's out there talking to sellers? If you are talking to anyone and you want to learn how to talk to them and learn language, you need to read this book. Robert Cialdini said that in the book Influence, he said when we do something for someone else, that person feels the need, feels the moral obligation to come back tenfold. Did social experiments on this. Tenfold. You do one thing for someone and not necessarily that person, because like I said, you don't cash flow all rental property, right? So not necessarily that person, but that everything that you gave will come back tenfold. Who knows what Zig Ziglar said about this? If you help enough other people get what they want, you'll get what? You'll get everything you want. All you get to do is help other people get what they want. How can we start to equate this? How can we start to connect the dots here and relate this to our real estate businesses? Okay? I want to get you guys thinking about that. And this is the really interesting thing. When it comes to relationships, because that's what we're talking about here, we're talking about how to get an ROI on a relationship, a return on the time that you've invested. How do I get an ROI on my relationship? The thing about this is people who are hustling, going 100 miles an hour, they hate this. They hate what I'm talking about right now. Because it requires something other than them going 100 miles an hour. It requires them to do something for other people first. Very smart man once said, if you want to go fast, you go alone. And that was me in my business for a long time. I wanted to go fast, so I was all by myself. If you want to go fast, you go alone. But if you want to go far, then you go with others. You take others along with you, and you build a business. It's very difficult, if not impossible, to build a business when it's just you. Because it's not a business. You don't have a business. What do you have? You have a job. You own a job. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, you have to go with others, which means you have to understand how to treat people. You have to understand how to talk to people. You have to understand how to leverage OPT. What's OPT? Other people's time. Why would someone want to come and work for you? Who are you? What do you think the number one factor in someone coming to work for someone else is? If I'm going to make a decision to come work for you, what do you think the number one factor in making that decision for me is? You think, what am I going to get out of it? What did you say? That's the number one factor, is likability. If I don't like them, unless, there's situations, obviously, my back's up against the wall and I gotta make a living. But if we have a choice, we're not going to do anything if we don't like them. Who is this? Who is it? Who's that guy? Does everyone know who that is? Who does not know who it is? All right. Who's that? Who is it? Who does not know who Shaq is? You don't know who Shaquille O'Neal is? Famous basketball player. Okay, all right. I got accused. I did this talk a month ago, and I got accused of nobody knew who that second guy was. I'm like, really? Nobody knew who this was? I need to explain that? What do these three people have in common? There was a study done recently that said these are the three most likable celebrities in America today. What do you think makes these three people so likable? What is it? They're personable? They're relatable? Do you know them? No. I don't. I was just curious. I'd like to get Shaq's picture with him. Probably have to get down on his knees. Check this out. Has anyone ever read the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People? Raise your hand up really high. Dale Carnegie said there are factors, there are things that you can do to be likable. And there are 6 of them. I'm going to give you 3 tonight. And the number one thing to be the most likable person out there is to what? Guys, I'm from right outside Chicago. Graduated high school up there. I moved to Alabama to go to school there. Roll Tide, sorry, excuse me. And the first thing I noticed when I got to campus and I'm walking down the sidewalk to class is like, everybody's smiling. Why are they smiling? Like, we're taught to, like, you keep your head down and you walk briskly and don't give off anything. Don't give off any clues that you might need someone else. You are there for yourself. You're doing your thing. And I'm looking up, and all these people are smiling at me. What happens when someone smiles at you? What do? You smile back. You can't help it. You can't help but smile back. This is the number one factor, according to Dale Carnegie, on how to be likable. It's just to do what? If someone, like right now, I'm looking out in the crowd, and you know who I'm focused on? I'm focused on the people who are interacting with me and smiling, the people that are like, have this scowl on their face. I don't even want to look at them. I probably don't even want to talk to you after I'm done tonight. I'm serious. You don't look likable. You don't look approachable. I don't want to waste my time on that. Smiling. How easy is it to smile? But some of you might say, Brian, you don't know my situation. You don't know my real situation. And to that I would say, I don't, but real estate and what Andrew offers as far as like teaching you how to do this stuff, man, if I had this stuff when I got started, if I had this stuff when I was like 18, 19, 20, there's a lot of young people in here. Man, it would have changed the course of my life forever. Be likable, and you could have anything and everything you ever want if you're just likable and you just smile every once in a while. You ever heard the old joke where it said, somebody walks in there, you grab a sugar packet and you throw it at a girl that looks pretty and you say, hey, you dropped your name tag? No one ever heard that before? Okay, maybe this is where I'm from. You know what the sweetest, according to Dale Carnegie, you know what the sweetest words in the English language is?
Someone's first name?
Your name. It's the sweetest word in the English language is your name. What happens when someone remembers your name? You feel what? You feel special, but you feel important. You feel like, hey, this person really does care about me. And guess what you do to that other person? You what? Kind of probably like them, right? You probably like this person. How hard is it for some of you to remember people's names? It's hard because you're not trying. You're not trying. You got to try. You got to repeat it to yourself over and over and over. Repeat it outwardly. I met Meredith earlier, and I said, Meredith, what's your name? She told me, and I told her a quick little story about how I knew another girl named Meredith. I'm never going to forget her name just because I equate her name with a story of someone else that I knew. And I told that story out loud, so now she knows it. She's smiling now. Like, it's like ability. I hope you guys are making this connection between what I'm talking about tonight and how you can be successful on the phone, face-to-face, belly-to-belly with sellers. I really hope you are. Because the number one factor in getting people to accept your low cash offer is likability. It's not the offer. Has nothing to do with the offer. Has everything to do with, do they like you and do they trust you? If they don't like you, you will not get the deal, even if someone offered less or more, or however that works. Even if someone offered a better deal. I got confused. And then number 3, Dale Carnegie said that the number 3 thing, and there's 6 of them, but these are the first 3, is be a great listener. Okay, be a great listener. Don't be a talker. Everyone's heard the phrase, God gave you 2 ears for a reason, 1 mouth. You should do twice as much listening as talking. Okay? Be a listener. And don't just listen. Listen intently. Listen. When I'm in a setting like this and I'm talking to someone, I'm listening. You know what I'm looking out for? You know what I'm listening out for? their challenges. What are their challenges? What are their struggles? And how might I be able to help? Whether it's a connection, whether maybe I know someone that they need to know, maybe it's a resource, maybe they just need a resource, maybe they just need something. Maybe I have maybe I got some motivation for them, maybe I have a book for them, maybe I have a video I could show them or point them to. Does that make sense? I'm listening out to how I can help them. Does this make sense? Is this helpful at all or no? Yes. Okay. Who knows who this is? Who is it? Who does not know who this is? Raise your hand. All right, I'm going to tell you a quick story. This is definitely the most famous marketer who is out there right now. His name's Gary Vaynerchuk. And he said something, I've been following him for a long time. He said something about 7 or 8 years ago that I have taken with me, and it is like my philosophy in business. This is my business philosophy. You should be 51% of every relationship that you're in. And all that's just fancy talk for you should give more than you take. Give more than you receive. Constantly be out giving other people. If you live by that philosophy, again, Zig Ziglar is really incredible. There's a book called See You at the Top. I know I've been mentioning a lot of books tonight. It's another great book. If you help enough other people get what they want, you're going to get everything that you want. Okay? But here's kind of the rest of that Zig Ziglar doesn't really talk about, or that Gary Vee doesn't really talk about. You can't just be 51% of a relationship. You can't just give. It takes time. It takes time. And that's the one factor, there's two factors really. Time is one of them. It takes a lot of, it has to be a way of life. You can't just like fake this. It takes a lot of time for people to get to trust you, get to know you and get to trust you, right? But the number two factor, and this is huge, is you should do all this without expectation. I was speaking in Phoenix back in May, and I gave a talk similar to this. I've tweaked it a little bit. And at the end, I opened up for Q&A, and a lady, she was on about the second row over here on this side, and she raised her hand. She said, "Brian, everything that you said tonight, I love it. It's things I've been implementing in my own life and in my own business, but things aren't happening for me. You said if I just do all these things that they're going to happen for me." And she broke down. I mean, she was like in tears. And what I said to her was, yes, time, you need to do this for a period of time for sure, but her issue is that she was doing all these things with an expectation. She was expecting to get something back in return. And you can't live this life expecting things from other people. Because when the number one reason relationships fail, whether it's a marriage or whether it's a friendship or whatever, the number one reason is unmet expectations. When you start to have these expectations and someone doesn't come through with them, you're going to be crushed. You have to operate with no expectation of receiving anything in return. I'm going to give you guys the four. This is how I'm going to leave you guys tonight. You guys, the four takeaways. I told you, the introverts in the room. These are the four things that I do when I enter a room and I get people to do really anything. I know it sounds kind of crazy, but I get them to do anything I want them to do. I need to phrase that differently, don't I? I'm going to be in Las Vegas in about 2 weeks, and I'm going to give this talk. So you guys are like my prep for that. And so I just realized that's a part I need to be able to phrase that a little bit better. But the sentiment is true. Like, you want to get people to do whatever you want them to do with good intentions, right? Is do these four things. You guys ready? Here's my list. Number one is you need to understand who you are and where you are in your I'm assuming real estate. Most of you guys are either in real estate or want to be in real estate. Number one, you have to have awareness of where you are in your career. Like, are you a wholesaler right now? And what do you need? What's your biggest need today in order for your business to go to the next level? Are you a wholesaler and you need cash buyers? Are you brand new and you just need some more education, some more instruction, some more training? Are you a cash buyer and you need more properties? Where are you in your career? You need to have self-awareness. Where are you and what do you need? That's the first thing. You write down, what do you actually need? People, it's insane that people don't do this simple task. Who writes their goals down every single day? 2 people, 3 people in the whole room. Who has an agenda for the day that they write down, like actually write down? Raise your hand up really, really high. The most successful people I know write down what they're going to do for that day, either first thing in the morning or really the night before. A lot of them do it the night before. What does that do? Why do they do that? It creates focus. It eliminates any kind of like wandering around. Has anyone ever like sat in their office or sat in at their computer and they're just like, they're going on from this task to this task to that task and let me get back to this one. Oh yeah, that was important. I got to get back to this one. Has anyone ever done that? It's because you don't have focus. And the number one way to get focus is to write down what you're going to do the next day. Here are my daily objectives. And for you really high achievers, it's going from my daily objectives to create a weekly goal, to get to a daily goal and a weekly goal. I have a monthly goal. I have a yearly goal. Maybe some people have 3 and 5 year goals and things like that. But they reverse engineer. Here's my goal. Here's what I'm looking to do. I want to do 25 deals this year. Or for my man right here, I want to do 50 deals this year.
Oh, yes, I will.
See? But now you got to reverse engineer it. To do 50 deals, now every week I got to make this many offers, talk to this many people. Every day I need to do this, I need to do this. They reverse engineer everything. Write down your goals, write down your list of things that you need to do for the day every single day and stay laser focused on that. Number 2, once you've written out what you need, don't ask, how do I do it? Don't ask, how do I get 500 cash buyers on my cash buyer list? We ask what? Who can help get me there? Who can help get me there? The most successful people I know are never like, you know what, I need to build a website. And they call me up, Brian, do you know how to build a website? I'm like, no. Of course not. Call Joey. Here's his number. He'll do it for you. The most successful people I know are not out there trying to figure out being jacks of all trades and trying to do everything themselves. They're putting the people who know their lane and know what they're doing. Like, you don't see Andrew back here operating the camera, right? Andrew's not checking people in. He's up here trying to talk to you guys. That's his role. If he was trying to do everything, it'd be bananas in here. And probably in his life, and it'd be chaotic. Ask who, not how. What I do is I make a list. I make a list of the top 3 or 4 or 5 people that I need to know to help me in my business. I do that. Do you guys do that? Who is this? Who is it? What is Kevin Bacon known for the most?
7 degrees of separation.
All right, say that louder.
7 degrees of separation.
What is that?
It's like for every seven people you know, someone is connected to him, and then it's just this crazy idea.
So there was like this joke in like the early 90s where Kevin Bacon had been in so many movies that he'd been in a movie with like everybody. And if he hadn't been in a movie with that person, then the person that knew that person he was in a movie with, they knew him. So it's like 6 degrees of separation or whatever it was. It's just like, so here's I know it's kind of funny, but I guess it's not funny. Nobody laughed. Who do you know? So once you made your list of people who I need to know, who do I know that knows that person? Who do I know that can introduce me to that person? And hopefully make a warm introduction. Does everyone know the difference between a cold introduction and a warm introduction? A cold introduction is, hey, here's Joey, here's his number, here, just give him a call. Don't do that. It's, oh, great, no, I appreciate that contact. Hey, is there any way that you could send either both of us a text message in the same thread and introduce me to him? Or if we're in an event together, What I like to do at events I've never been to before is I'll go up to the leader. And first of all, I know I have self-awareness, right? I know what I need, and I know who can get me there. And maybe there's someone in this room that can get me there, but I don't know them. But Andrew, who leads this thing, maybe Andrew knows him. Hey, Andrew, do you know Joey? Could you make that introduction for me? Could you walk up there with me and introduce me to him? You guys see the power in that? Why would you do it that way? Instant credibility. Instant credibility. And then the last thing here, after you've got self-awareness, you know who you need to know. You wrote down your list of who it is, ask who, not how. You figured out how to get there. Once you actually meet that person, what do you say to that person? How can you get that? I have a need, right? But I don't lead with, hey, here's what I need. Can you help me? I figure out, number one, we all have a unique ability. We all have an ability that is far better than any of our other abilities. Is one thing that we're the best at. How can we figure out how to leverage that unique ability that we have and leverage it and give that away to this person? If my unique ability is connections, I'm very well connected, especially in the real estate space. If you need to know a famous guy in real estate that's out there, I can probably connect you with him. So that's what I'm best at. I'm all about connecting people. So if you know I'm all about connections, you know you need to meet someone, maybe I'm your who, right? Come up to me, hey, but I'm going to lead with value. I'm not going to lead with, hey, what can you do for me? It's what can I do for you? So I'll tell this story very quickly. There's a really big guy in our town. Actually, I'm not going to tell that story. I'm going to tell a different story because I actually took that out of my slide deck and I put a different story in here. Who is familiar with Tom Kroll? Raise your hand if you know who Tom Kroll is. Okay, not very many of you. Tom Kroll is the nation's #1 coach when it comes to wholesaling. Okay, he's the biggest wholesale coach. If you want to know how to, from a national perspective, you want to know how to wholesale properties, Tom Kroll is that guy. He's going to be able to help you. Well, about 2 years ago, I did everything I just got done telling you here. I had self-awareness. I knew where I was in my business. And where I was in my business is that I want to start speaking more. I wanted to start coaching more. I'd done the real estate thing. I was kind of burned out on that a little bit. I wanted to kind of transition to more of the info space. And Tom had a really big coaching program. And I wrote, he was at the top of my list. I didn't even know who he was. I knew who he was. I didn't know him personally. So what's the second thing to do? You have self-awareness. What's number 2? Ask who, not how. Oh, I did that. It was Tom Kroll. That was the who. Sorry. And number 3 was what? 6 degrees of separation, right? Who do I know that knows Tom that could make a warm introduction for me? And I happen to know, has anyone ever heard of Joe McCall? A few of you guys know who Joe is? Joe was one of my first coaches in this business back in like 2013, 2014. And Joe was just on Tom's podcast. Tom was on Joe's podcast. And I'm like, I just sent Joe a quick text. I was like, hey, can you introduce me to Tom Kroll? He's like, of course. And he like sent us an email, put us in an email together. And I want to get him on my podcast. That's my in for a lot of people. Not that starting a podcast is that big of a deal. Any of you guys could do it. But my in is typically, hey, I'd love to have you on my podcast so you can promote whatever you have to promote and I can interview you. So that was kind of my in, but obviously I had deeper, I wanted more from Tom. I wanted to learn from him. I wanted to kind of be in his inner circle if I could, just be around him more. But I led with value. When I finally got connected to Tom, the first question I asked him is, hey, would you consider being on my podcast so you could promote your stuff? So you could promote your agenda, promote your course and all those things? You see how I led with value? I didn't just say, hey, Tom, I'd love to pick your brain sometime. Most people hate that. Don't lead with that. You lead with value. So this is back in November, December 2017. A lot of things got rescheduled, and he ended up he ended up canceling a couple times on me, and I'm like, all right, how can I really make an impact in Tom's life? Obviously, this isn't working. So he had a wholesaling conference coming up in Orlando, and this was in January 2018. I bought my own ticket. I flew down to Orlando, stayed in a way too expensive of a hotel for a conference, and did all this. I got down there a day early, and I had Tom's number. I text Tom. I said, hey, man, just real quick, I'm down here a day early. Just want to let you know that. If you do have 5 or 10 minutes, I'd love to get coffee. If not, no big deal. Okay? So a few minutes went by. He texted me back. He's like, oh, brother, I'd love to, but I actually have a couple of fires I got to put out right now. I've had like 3 speakers cancel on me all of a sudden. I was like, really? Interesting. So it took me about 10 minutes to craft this text message to get the wording perfect. I didn't want to seem like I was like over anxious. Hey, I'm a speaker. Let me come speak. So I sent him this text message back. It says something like this. Oh man, that's really terrible. I hate that. Just to let you know, I am a speaker. I do have original content, and I'm available if you need me. If not, no big deal. I'll see you at the event tomorrow. That was my text message, basically. He sends me a message back immediately that says, when can we meet? It's like, bam, I got on stage at the Wholesaling Inc. conference in Orlando in front of like 250 people or something like that. Then I got to go back. The next fall is where I met Andrew last fall at his second conference that he did in Asheville and spoke in front of their group as well. And really and truly, leading with value, being intentional, leading with value, and all these things, it all equated into me getting like some pretty cool speaking gigs and launching. He helped me launch REI Live as well. And some people will say, Brian, who thinks I got lucky? Got really lucky there. Some people would say that. Brian, you got really, really lucky right there. Like, those speakers didn't have to cancel. Like, you to get on that stage for all those things to happen and line up there's a little bit of serendipity in place, right? But I'm going to tell you guys something. There's a funny thing about luck. Yeah, there was an element of luck that took place for sure. But and a lot of you, some of you in here really need to hear this. There are very specific things that you can do. There's very intentional things that you could be doing right now to put yourself in luck's way. So I've heard a lot of people speaking, all over the country. I hear a lot of people telling me that, Brian, it's just not meant for me to do this real estate thing. I tried it. It really just didn't work out for me. I just can't do it. I just don't know how to do it. I can't do it. I've had bad circumstances, bad luck my whole life. That's just what I've resigned myself to. And it's just a lie. And it really and truly is a lie. And if you do these 4 things right here, understand where you are, have self-awareness, and this doesn't have to just be about real estate. It could be really about anything. Understand where you are, number 1. Number 2, ask that question, who? Who can help get me to at least to the next step? And for some of you in this room, the who answer is probably Andrew. For a lot of you in here. Ask who. Number 3, figure out how to meet that person. What do I got to do to get around that person? Who do I know that knows that person? Or who do I know that knows someone that knows someone that knows that person? If that's what you got to do. And then when you finally meet that person, lead with what? Figure out your unique ability and offer that unique ability to that person. Does that sound good? Did you guys get anything out of this tonight? If you did, it would be an incredible honor if you would follow me on Instagram. And I have a private Facebook group, a closed Facebook group, that I put all my content in there. It's 100% free. If you guys want to join that group, definitely check it out. And I'd love to stick around and answer questions, or we can do Q&A right now. It's up to you guys. I don't know how you do it.
Let's do Q&A right now.
Does anyone have any questions? And guys, listen, real quick before we do Q&A, look, I don't say I've done it all, but like, I've had multifamily units. I've had a lot of single family units. I've done commercial. I've done subject twos. I've done the BRRRR strategy. I've done a lot of real estate. If you have specific questions about anything, whether it's about tonight or about anything whatsoever, I'd love to help you guys.
So first, let's give Brian a big round of applause for that. So thank you very much, Brian. And yes, I know we have some questions. I had some people already ask me to make sure that I asked them to ask a question. Does that make sense? Freddie, there you go. There's one.
Yes, sir. Brian, first of all, I need to say thank you so much for being here, man. When you see back and your first days doing this 12 years ago, what was your biggest fear?
Yeah.
And how do you face it? Like,
Great question.
How do you do that?
Yeah, it's a
Because
great
there's a
question.
lot of people with fears, even me. Like,
Yeah.
how can I do the next step? Can you share that with
Yeah,
us?
definitely. That's a great question. Thank you. To some of your surprise, I'm a bad extreme introvert. Who believes that? Like, I'm serious. I am a terrible introvert. When I walk into a room and I don't know anybody, some of you saw me. I'm just standing there in the corner. Like, I don't during that networking thing, I'm just gonna stand back here. I'm the speaker. Somebody will come say something to me. Nobody ever did, but I was, I'm a bad introvert, and that was my biggest hurdle when I got started. Is how do I? And, the young lady who mentioned that earlier, like, how do I talk to somebody on the phone when it seems to be like this is a relationship, it's a people business, and you have to talk to people? How do I talk to someone on the phone and not sound like an idiot, not sound like I don't know what I'm talking about, and just carry on a conversation? Like, that was a huge struggle for me, and I don't know any secrets. The only thing I did is my fear of not being successful was greater than my fear of picking up that phone. That might be some of your situations today and some of you just aren't scared enough. Your life's a little too comfortable today. Almost to the point to where you got a mortgage, you might have a car payment, and you might have some other debts in your life, and these are just things that get automatically drafted out of your account and you don't even think about. And you've become so comfortable with debt and so comfortable with your situation that you don't even think about it. How about let's back up, and I can't create uncomfortability for you, but that's going to be the answer. Your fear of not being successful has to be greater than your fear to talk to somebody on the phone. And I can't make that for you. Nobody can. And if that doesn't exist inside of you, then you will not be successful with this business, period. You won't. You can't. So until you get to that place in your life, I don't think anyone can really do anything for you. You can learn anything and everything. You watch all the YouTube videos and listen to all the podcasts and come to all the meetings, and you'll never do a deal because your fear of you're too comfortable, but your fear of talking to someone is greater than your fear of not being successful. I don't know if that answered your question.
And Brian, do you still have any books over there?
Yeah, I do, and I'm going to give a book to everyone who asked a question.
There's a few people that answered earlier. So if there's
Anyone who asks a question, I'm going to give a book to. That's the only way I know to do it because I got 5 left.
There you go. Question.
Did you ask a question? Who's doing it? Okay.
All right. So you said that you learned to automate your business. Now I'm just curious as to what some of the steps you took to automate that.
Automation and delegation are huge, and I think relying more on people is big. So what, if you don't mind me, I'd love to get like a little bit more specific with you. What's your business? What are you doing specifically?
I'm looking to start a wholesale.
Well, are you doing anything right now, or are you looking to get going? Okay, gotcha. So who has a wholesale business or trying to get going in wholesale? Raise your hand up really high. I'm already wholesaling, or I want to wholesale. Raise it up really, really high. Because way more than half the room. So the first thing you need to do when you start talking about automation and delegation, the very first thing you need to do is do an org chart. Write out an org chart. Write out an organizational chart. What are all of the jobs that are, what are all the jobs to wholesaling a property? What are all the little job descriptions? Like, what are all the hats that you have to wear? Like, someone needs to talk to people. Someone needs to do the marketing. Someone needs to talk to the people. Someone needs to schedule appointments. Someone needs to go on the appointments. Someone needs to write contracts. Someone needs to sell the contracts. Someone needs to manage the whole thing once it's already done. Like, there's all these different responsibilities in a wholesale business. So the first thing I'm going to do when it comes to automation and delegation is figure out first, especially in the beginning when you probably don't have a whole lot of money, first is what are the tasks here that don't require me to spend any money? What can I get off my plate that don't require me to spend any money? Who might have a suggestion? Yes, sir.
I'm doing wholesaling too, and I got a good friend of mine who's making doing my cold calling for me.
Are you paying him?
Nah, I'm not.
So the answer to the question is find free labor. That's the question.
Can you introduce me to that friend?
Are you paying him a percentage of the deal?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's actually, what's your name?
Fred.
So that's actually where I was going with this. And what was your name? Tony. That's actually where I was going with this. Is there something you can put in place where you can offer someone a percentage of the deal by maybe being the acquisitions person? Will you get, I don't know, what do you pay them? 10%, 20%, whatever it is. You just pay them something, but you only pay them if you do a deal. So now you've gotten something off your plate that you don't have to do that didn't cost you any money. That's the first thing I do. And then once you start to generate some revenue, then you start to identify the things that are like, I'm thinking in terms of VAs, $4, $5, $6 an hour activities that I can get off my plate and I can give to a virtual assistant.
Do you use virtual assistants?
Of course. I think in this business you almost have to. But because you're trying to find people to do tasks that are just repeatable. Any kind of repeatable task, you gotta automate that or delegate that to someone else and get that thing automated. Like marketing. Sending out your marketing is a repeatable task that anyone can do. A brain dead person can do that task because you've written out a process. Here's what you do. You just follow the process. These are ways, and I'm trying to keep the answer short, these are ways to automate and delegate your business.
I was just going to add in when you said when you just got to do it, you're not uncomfortable enough, but you just have to do it. I was thinking that I've seen many deals, but many that wouldn't be a perfect fit for me, that are too expensive, or you didn't know enough about it. Call on those ones first. Get comfortable with ones. I mean, I'm asking you, that's your question, but it might help if you call on those that you're not 100% interested in, just by talking with people.
100%.
I like questions, you'll ask questions.
Yeah.
Just builds up your confidence.
And another, that's a great point. What was your name? Eric. That's a great point. And what I also like to do is go on appointments that you know it's not a deal. But in the beginning, you're going to go on the appointment anyway to get experience talking to people, get experience in negotiating, get experience doing these things. Very, very important. Yes, sir. Did you get a book?
Not yet. Got one now. Right now. You mentioned about finding guys, people help people. I know a lot of landscapers and people drive by houses all the time. They're distressed. You know a lot of them. Use those guys. That's their job. They're going to notice the house that's torn up and has high grass, so use those guys. My question though, when you and your wife, was going to leave, you want to spend time with family.
She says she's going to leave. Don't be putting words in my mouth now. She says she didn't like me very much. She didn't leave. She's in it.
I believe that's probably she was going.
Let me read into something.
I was going to incorporate, you got little ones now. How would you incorporate your immediate family? And if you can extend it maybe into your business, into your life, if that's something you want to do.
How do I get them involved in the business? Right. So the only involvement, I think that's a tough question. I think that's a question you have to kind of ask yourself. Everybody's situation can be different. For my wife and her specific skill set, I didn't want her in my business. I just didn't. But she is great at checking people in at our events that we do. She's awesome at that because she's super, super just give me a list and I'll do it. She's good at like any kind of like anything I've written down that's task oriented, she'll do that. But she doesn't like real estate. So you have to understand who it is. Like, I mean, I'm not getting my kids involved. If that's what you're asking, they're 5 and 2. But I think that that's a question you just kind of got to talk to your family and, hey, what involvement would you like to have? What's your skill set? What do you love? What's your passion? What do you love to do? Is there something we could kind of fit that in? I don't know if I answered your question. Sir. Sorry.
I had a question. This is my first time here.
Oh, great.
My friend invited me. As a real estate investor, is there a specific side of the real estate we should be thinking about investing in?
Oh, wow.
Because I own rental property now, but I don't know if that's like people of course you want to diversify, but which one would I look at? You know, that's what I want.
So that's like, hold on, keep the microphone. Hold on. What was your name?
Lemby.
Lemby?
Yes.
Let me ask you this. You said you have a couple of rentals right now?
Yes.
Okay, so like for me to really answer this question to the best of my ability, I would really need to ask you a lot of personal financial questions. So I probably don't want to do that in front of a lot of people. But it's really going to depend on you. There are a lot of people who have money and they think they're supposed to get into wholesaling because they see other people doing it.
But that's what I was asking the question, yeah.
I would have to like kind of consult you like on a one-on-one basis. I will tell you this. There's about 1 million different ways to make $1 million in real estate. And the people who are the most successful pick one thing, maybe 2 things. The people that try to do everything are going to always be chasing a check, and they're never going to have a true business. They're going to own a job for the rest of their life because they're always chasing something. So whatever it is, find something you love, find something that makes sense for you, and focus on that one thing. And if you get great at it, maybe add a second or third thing.
That helped a lot.
Okay.
What one thing do you focus on?
REI Live. I got about 4 things, but my main thing is REI Live. Yeah. Yes. Last book too, so no one else is going to ask a question.
All right. So my question is, I'm a licensed real estate agent here. However, I would like to know the top 3 tools you would suggest a new wholesaler to use outside of driving for dollars. That's cost effective.
Okay.
Let's just say you don't have any money, but you're ready to get started outside of driving for dollars.
Outside of like a Drive for Dollars app?
Yes.
The tools is in like an app?
Yes, app,
or like
whatever you suggest.
Okay. I think you need to have the advancements. You mentioned you're a realtor. The advancements on the Realtor.com app are amazing over the past few years. Almost in real time, within about 5 to 10 minutes, there are updates. So you can comp. You need a tool to comp properties. Okay, and that's one of the biggest questions I get is how can I get comps? I'm not a realtor. Well, Realtor.com is pretty good. Zillow, a lot of people hate Zillow. The advancements Zillow has made, especially with the lawsuit coming down to where they got access now to all the data. They didn't have all the data before, and now having access to all the data, Zillow's become a good resource too. You're talking about wholesaling. You're talking about trying to find a deal. Really and truly, you want to try to find a great deal. The best resource is probably going to be a great book on how to deal with people. Influence, I mentioned earlier, how to win friends, because you need to be a people person. You need to, in the introverts in the room, you have to understand how to deal with people. And that's why I'm so passionate about this. You have to understand people and how you can get them to do things that they may not like. How do you get a seller to sell their house at 50 cents on the dollar? Like, how do you do that? You got to be likable. How do you get people to accept your lower cash offer than someone else who might have offered more? How does that happen? It happens because of likability, trust, relationship building. These are skills. These are skills that you can learn. Some people are born with it, but for us that are not born with it, these are skills that you can learn. And there's no better. So everyone also asked me, how many leads do I need in order to do a deal? People ask me that a lot. Does anyone want to know the answer to that question? How many leads does it take to do a deal? Nobody does? There's no way to answer that question because my talent level at dealing with people is going to be completely different than some of you in the room. And if you don't understand how to deal with people, your numbers are going to be like maybe 1 out of every 100 leads you get a deal. For me, it might be 1 out of every 6. There is an element of skill involved and you have to take it seriously. You have to study. This is a craft, especially if you're doing this full time. You have to treat this as if this is your craft, this is your job, and you are going to be great at it. Constantly study, constantly read.
You also suggest
Did that help? I know that's not where you were going.
Do you suggest we put our wholesale underneath the LLC?
In the beginning, I don't think it's necessary. I'm not an attorney. Guys, I'm not a tax attorney. I'm not a entity. Well, but here's the interesting thing about attorneys. Sir, they all have their opinions, and their opinions don't matter because the only person's opinion that matters is the judge. So all these attorneys are going to give you all this different advice, and like what one attorney says, it could be completely different than what another attorney says. And it all comes down to it's their opinion. It's their opinion. You have to keep that in mind. Err on the side of caution. Just err on the side of caution is all I can tell you. And it's interesting because we have an attorney who sponsors our club, and I interviewed him. And it's on YouTube. You can go watch it. And I asked him like 5 pretty tough questions as it relates to wholesale. And every single answer he starts off with, well, it's my opinion. And I'm like, I just want it. And I told him this. It's in the video. I'm like, listen. You're starting every answer with, it's my opinion. Just tell me what it is, and I'll do it. Who feels that way? Just tell me what the law is, and I'm going to do it. He's like, wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that be great? It's not like that, because how a judge interprets the law could be different to how an attorney interprets it, or how another judge interprets it. So you just have to err on the side of caution. Sorry, hopefully I didn't single you out.
I was going to say that the other go-to is like, well, generally, you could look at this. So
that's how you save your rear end, yeah? See why?
And y'all could watch last month's video from our last month's speaker, and if you guys that were here, everything he said the same thing. It's like, well, generally, or in this instance.
Yeah. Just look. Not to really get on attorneys, you really need to err on the side of caution. Just be cautious. Like for me, in the beginning, when I didn't have a lot to lose, especially with my taxes, I was very liberal with how I treated my taxes and how I treated do I get an entity just to wholesale? I didn't have anything to lose. Like, what are they going to do? What are they going to sue? What are they going to get? So I was very liberal with how I treated my tax planning and things like that. So I'm not telling y'all to do that.
Can I take my book over the mail so you can mail it to me? No, but I do have a question.
See, you follow me on Instagram. Shoot me a DM. He won't do it.
I actually do want to. I will.
It's on Amazon for $8. Seriously, $8, $7.99. It'll be here in 2 days. $8. Support me just a little bit. How about that?
So you travel a lot, you do whatever you want, right? So obviously you have a team that does, I guess, a lot of the things for you. So what does the team look like, and what tools do you use to keep things in place?
It would be a great question, but I don't. The only real estate I do today is with my coaching students. I partner with my coaching students. I don't have a team for real estate at all. My coaching students do. I teach them, I coach them, I mentor them, and they're out doing deals, and we have some sort of split agreement. So I'm out of that. You asked me earlier, what's my focus today? My focus today is growing REI Live, Real Estate Investing Live, because I'm very passionate about it. Yeah. So I used to be a teacher. I used to be a college basketball coach and a teacher. And the day, and I think this is great advice for anyone in here, especially people getting started and stuff. If you can find something that you love to do and that you're great at, and here's a caveat, and that you can get paid for, now you've found kind of what that's like your calling or your purpose is found within that. Something that you're great at, that you're passionate about, and that you live on, that you can support your family with. And when Guys, real estate is a vehicle. And that's the biggest thing I want y'all to take away from today. Real estate, all it is a vehicle. It's just a vehicle to get you somewhere. It can't be, real estate's not the destination. And when you treat it like it's the destination, then you're probably not going to be, you're going to feel this lack. You're going to feel like there's something missing here. And that's, guys, I was running around forever. You know, I did $1.something million over 3 years in wholesale revenue. And I was never fulfilled because I wasn't doing what my purpose was. My purpose was, like, all along, I figured this out. My purpose was to teach. How could I teach? How could I get this message out? And that's how I've kind of arrived at this point.
Yes. I don't really have a particular question. Just wanted to
out of books.
Just wanted to know what advice you would give someone as far as like developing the right mindset, and keeping that right mindset. Like how important was having the right mindset? How much did that contribute to your success?
Yeah. Positivity. Surround yourself with positivity. If there are negative people in your life, get them out of your life. Or if it's family, just don't spend as much time with them. You know, seriously, you have to surround yourself with positivity. People chirping in your ears, telling you, oh, you're doing that real estate thing. Oh, you're trying that. You're trying to. It's cancer. So number one is positivity. Fill your mind with nothing but positivity, whether it's books, videos, just some sort of motivational something. Just have it going in the car with you. Positivity is the answer.
All right, we're gonna do one more. If we got one more question, and Brian's not going back to Birmingham tonight, so he might get to see you afterwards, right?
I don't know. The people are scowling at me. I don't know.
So, one last question.
Yes,
I know you said you're out of doing the real estate and things like that. You're just going to teach now. But when you were, you said you did substitutes and all those. What was the best avenue as far as doing cash flow that you did?
To get cash flow, what's the best way to get cash flow?
Yeah, I mean like out of wholesale and subject to.
Okay. All right, so wholesaling is not cash flow. Okay? Fixing and flipping houses is not cash flow. That's transactional. Okay? These are one-time events that gives you money one time. There's nothing wrong with that, but that's not what's going to set you free financially. Cash flow is the name of the game. So what that means is, do you have a business that's going to throw off cash? Like you could have a wholesaling business that runs without you, that's paying you cash every month. Rentals, in whatever that looks like, I can't answer specifically. It could be subject to, it could be a mix of them, I don't know. But getting rental property, having something that's going to pay you on a monthly basis, that is cash flow. And that is the name of the game. That is what is going to set you financially free, is cash flow. That's what allowed my wife to quit a 6-figure job, is we replaced her income with monthly cash flow. So you've got to figure out, I don't know if I'm answering your question. Yeah. You're asking me which strategy is best, I think, and there's no way there's lots of them. You can make money millions of different ways. But if you're interested in subject to, I do have a video on the REI Live YouTube channel. The single most watched video on the subject to investing is on our page, where I taught that class. So you should, subject to is buying a property subject to the existing financing, which means you're not going out and getting your own financing. You're taking over someone else's financing in a myriad of ways.
All right, so thank you very much, Brian Trippe.
Awesome.